Supply chains win wars. It's not hyperbole. It's just history, and it's an uncomfortable truth that Europe must face right now. Is Europe and NATO supply chains resilient enough to withstand a large-scale conflict at any time? So joining me on stage is Robin Dechant, partner at General Catalyst, and Julian, CEO of EthonAI. Give them a round of applause. Okay. Robin, you've often spoken about Europe needing a new industrial revolution, so I just kind of want to hear more about that. Specifically, what's the proper level of urgency here? Is Europe ready for a large-scale attack?
I think if you have been in the room yesterday, and I think we also had it at the dinner yesterday, the level of urgency probably was never higher than right now. I think if you think about the whole industrial base in Europe, it has been really strong in some of the industries where Europe has been strong, like automotive, but I think in some of the emerging industries, we're definitely lagging behind. So what you see, for example, we spend a lot of time on like the component level, right? Like motors, actuators, electronics, where we like strongly depend on like countries like China. And I think that's something where probably we should be already, I think, much stronger today.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a lot of trade-offs here, right? Sovereignty versus openness, speed versus regulation. At the end of the day, who pays for it all, right? So it's a question as where do you stand? Do you build this here locally? Do you import technology?
I think you need to divide between like the short term and the long term. I think sometimes things are so urgent you can't wait, right? But I do think what's important now that we strategically think about like what should we actually bring back to Europe and manufacture here. And I think the only way to actually bring back manufacturing is by automation. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think if we think about where Europe has been really strong, and I'm native German, I think we have been a really engineering powerhouse. I do think we lost a bit, I think, our strength when it comes to engineering. I think we need to bring more graduates into engineering again. We need to invest more in, I think, the education of the next generation of engineering. And I also think we should not only compete producing mass components very cheaply, but actually think about what are next generation components. How can we bring back our engineering strength to actually manufacture the new capabilities we need in the future, rather than competing on, let's say, the cheapest motors, right? Where probably we can't even compete given our labor costs.
Sure. And Julian, you work with factories.
Yeah.
Right. What are the bottlenecks right now that you're seeing, and how can we address them?
I think it's just the speed of implementation of technology, right? Because we've seen 3 major industrial revolutions. It's still questionable if we are in the 4th one. Many people claim we are, and I would agree. And every step change that we have seen in the different revolutions were enabled through technology. Mm-hmm. The first industrial revolution with the steam engine, second one with electricity, and the third one with computerization of factories. And I think we are now on the brink where we will see mass adoption of AI in factories to streamline operations, sure, to help manufacturers be more effective and efficient. And the bottleneck at the moment is just at the rate we adopt those technologies. And interestingly, that's mostly a people problem and not a technology problem.
What do you mean?
So I think there's large resistance to change, and I think manufacturing is different to other areas where we have seen AI at scale, like finance, marketing, sales. I think it's harder because that's where the digital world hits the physical world. And you need to get many people on board. You need to invest a lot into the UX, UI of these tools to make them useful for the people, because there also has to be something in it for them.
Mm-hmm. So when you say AI in factories,
yes,
what does that mean?
So there are many different use cases. I'd like to think about them as point improvements and system improvements. So a point solution could be a computer vision system that automates visual checks of products and makes sure that no product with a defect leaves the factory. It might be a predictive maintenance use case where you look into the behavior of a machine, and whenever it starts to behave a little bit differently, you want to send a notification to someone. The more exciting use cases come when you look into entire value streams or supply chains, and this is what I would refer to as system improvements, where you aggregate data from different sources, maybe even different factories, and then you run AI on top of that on a quest to improve productivity of factories. And this is also where we as a business are mostly situated.
Let's talk about your business and pitch it a little bit. So tell us what your business does and how do you sell that?
I don't know if 50 minutes are enough on the second question, but so we are an industrial AI platform. We come on top of existing factory data sources that can be an MES, so a manufacturing execution system, an ERP system, sensor databases. And what we do is we contextualize this data, so we give it more semantic meaning by using knowledge graphs. So this means we try to essentially create the digital copy of a factory, and we attribute different data points to the place where they actually originate from. So we're giving this unstructured data a little bit more meaning. IBM just recently published a report saying that 90% of factory data never gets touched.
I think there actually was a saying, I think manufacturing is data rich but information poor.
Yeah.
And I think that's so correct.
And we come on top of that rich data, we contextualize it, and then we have our own models to look for improvement opportunities with the specific purpose of improving costs, quality, speed of production. I can give you a little bit of a non-trivial example, but everyone can probably relate to it. One of our largest customers is Lindt, the chocolate producer. And whenever they produce chocolate, at some point, the quality might deteriorate. So chocolate might break, it might stick, and that costs a lot of money over many, many production lines. So what we do is essentially we look into all this data, and we use these causal graphs to investigate how these parameters relate to each other, and we can give recommendations automatically on maybe you should adjust this temperature and this pressure, and that will help you to stabilize the production line and make it produce at a better productivity. And this way, customers typically save millions across their factories, but also, and for the topic of resilience, make it worthwhile producing in Europe or the US, where it's much more expensive to produce and where you need to be efficient and effective when producing.
Let me ask you a better question for the second half for selling it. A lot of people want to use AI, right? What are you seeing for factories, the people that are talking about using AI and the people that are actually using it? What's the divide?
So I think we see quite some adoption among larger manufacturing conglomerates, so think Fortune 500s. We see less of it in small companies, which still make up most of our economy. Also, our customer base is mainly very large industrial conglomerates, companies like Siemens, Bosch, Lindt, Roche. So we're quite agnostic when it comes to the industries.
Sure.
There is a reason for it, and that is obviously number one, digital readiness. So that means data is at least stored somewhere and captured. And number two, scale.
Sure.
Which makes it also more interesting for us because some of our customers have deployments of 20 plus factories. And this is where you can really generate a lot of savings.
Yeah. And, Robin, you invested into Julian's company, right? Where does that fit into General Catalyst's overall investment thesis?
I think the overall investment thesis for us is basically you want to bring back manufacturing to the US and to Europe, right? And I think there's certain ways how to think about it. I think one particular thing is like reducing the costs and automation, right? I think Julian's company obviously fits into like the reducing cost area and also like to automate some of these processes. I think we also look now more and more into actually more, let's say like full stack companies. So companies that might actually vertically integrate, they might build their own hardware, right? And then actually become like a key supplier. I think one interesting opportunity is also like, should we do like a roll-up of key component suppliers? Because I think if Europe has one strength, it's like a really vast majority of like industrial companies that are probably not operated at the level how we would operate them or other founders, but I think they have a lot of IP, right? And this can be components for vision systems, for cameras and so on, where we probably don't want to depend on like other countries. And I think the way we think now at GC is basically, let's not think about capital solutions first and then the opportunity, but let's think about the opportunities and then think about what is the right capital structure to do so, right? This could be like we incubate something, we do like a seed investment, what we did with Julian's company. We might do like a roll-up, which is a bit more like a PE style of company. So I think we're trying to be a bit more creative and like thinking about how these companies are going to look like because it's a very it's a very tricky and different industry, right, compared to traditional software, right? Like
Right.
you need to go into the machine shop, you need to have people, it's CapEx heavy mostly and so on. So I think also that needs to align with the capital structure you put behind these companies.
Yeah, yeah. How is GC's investment thesis changing as threats increase?
I mean, we're having this resilience thesis now for actually like quite a few years, right? It's also a bit unfortunate that most of the things we have been investing and thinking of, they just reinforce with like every month actually right now. I think where we're probably evolving is we're more and more open to, I would say, CapEx businesses and companies that vertically integrate. I would say a few years ago we have done like a few investments, but now actually I think we're much more open to that. And we're also looking into probably areas where I think a few years ago we maybe wouldn't touch them so often, like space, right? I think it's a big theme for us right now. Like, how do we think about Earth observation capabilities when it comes to European countries and sovereignty? So I think it evolves over time, but it unfortunately also has reinforced itself quite a lot.
Sure, sure. Now, when you're fundraising for your seed round, startups often have the ability to choose investors and everything. How do you see yourself fitting into General Catalyst, and what did they offer you?
Be honest.
Yeah.
So I think when we started raising our pre-seed, it was tough. So we came out of research. We were two PhDs at ETH Zurich.
I think you should share the anecdote with. I think someone wanted to buy your PhD thesis, right?
Yeah, so a big industrial conglomerate was interested in buying the technology, and then
You can say the name. We're all friends.
and then we decided to found a company around it. And back then, VCs didn't want to invest in industrial tech. It doesn't scale. It's not the typical SaaS play. So it was challenging to get the first check. We ended up raising 1.3 million. And then larger investors became, first of all, aware of the vast potential, but also saw kind of which customers we were attracting. I mean, Siemens was our first customer, and Siemens is building industrial tech themselves as well, so they really believed in the technology. And then the follow-on rounds, our seed and Series A, have been fairly straightforward because we had the proof points. The seed was led by General Catalyst, the Series A by Index Ventures. So it's large funds that suddenly also became very interested in industrial tech, which had the reputation of not being scalable. And yes, you can't scale to 100, 200 million ARR within the first year, but you scale in a very predictable manner, and the software is very sticky, and it's there to stay when it's implemented in a company.
You just listed a whole lot of reasons why not to do what you're doing. Why approach this? Why build this?
I did it out of passion because in my research, I worked with large industrial conglomerates and I saved them a lot of money, and I really believed in the technology and saw the potential that it has. And yeah, I wanted to run a company, and I thought I will never have a better idea than this. And I've seen what it can do if executed right, but it's incredibly challenging to do it because, as I mentioned before, it's where the physical world meets the digital world. It's where many stakeholders need to be aligned, from the shop floor to the top floor of an organization. And that maybe I haven't answered that. How do you sell this? Question. You need everyone in the organization to buy into this, and this is why we don't have like hundreds of customers, but we have very large customers that scale us across the factories, and obviously contract volumes then start to make sense.
Sure.
But it's a relationship-heavy business. I'm in the process of relocating to the US because we opened our office there. My co-founder Bernard will stay here in Europe, and I'm purely going there because it's relationship-heavy business. So you want to build a relationship with your customers, and you kind of become also more like a consultant for their digital transformation and help them kind of scaling a platform like this.
Is it different selling to companies in Europe than it is in the US?
Yes.
How so?
I would say in the US, people have an opportunity / ROI mindset, versus in Europe, it's a cost mindset. So that has a big impact on sales cycles. So if you tell an American company, we can save you $1 million+ per factory, and you're gonna pay, I don't know, a fifth of that, they consider it to be a no-brainer. And in Europe, we sometimes still have the perception this is unfair. This is very expensive because my Microsoft Teams subscription is $25 a month, whatever, you know. It feels a little bit off. So that is different. But where Europe really stands out is, first of all, this technological readiness, because European factories are more advanced than American ones. And number two is also, once a company really bought into this and you have this stakeholder alignment, they really stick to it. And then they really start to scale, which is maybe in the US, it might be more, you know, opportunistic, and someone wants to maybe progress their career and they actually have the budget and the authority to do it, they will do it. But if they don't see the value, maybe then they might, you know, also pull out. So I think that's the key differences. In the US, it's speed, and in Europe, it's probably commitment.
When you say commitment, like, is it long-term, short-term? It's
no, long-term commitment, right? So once you see that it actually works, companies really stick to it and they want to scale it. We have absolutely fantastic relationships with the customers in Europe who have already scaled us also then globally.
I can see why you invested in them. It's fantastic. Are you fundraising right now?
No, we are not. We raised our Series A in the beginning of last year. Still 20 months runway, so now I'm more focused on running the business rather than trying to put money into it. But probably next year, end of next year, we're looking to raise a Series B to continue scaling.
Right. Just one more question on that, because I'm very curious. This type of industry takes a lot of money. What size target would you take us through your fundraise? At seed, you raised how much?
7 million.
Great. And then a Series A?
18.
So are we targeting 60, 70?
Let's see.
Yeah, right, it's right. Very good. So Robin, when you're looking around at Europe for other companies, is there other verticals like this that you want to invest in?
I think space, I've mentioned already. I think we're spending a lot of time on robotics right now. It's obviously, I think, a lot of hype right now, given the technological advancements. But I think I'm actually wondering why not more people start a robotics company in Europe, because I think in the US right now we have like a lot of competition between like the well-funded players. And Europe, right, I think we have like a large industrial base you can potentially tap into like as a customer. We have a lot of amazing talent. I think we even have like really strong talent on the hardware side, but then also on the software side. So I think robotics is something we're spending a lot of time on. Then I would say everything about like supply chain and resilience. So this can go from the component level to like, you know, transparency around your suppliers. I think that's something we're hearing also a lot from our partnership with large industrial companies.
You can keep on saying resilience. I'm okay with that.
And then I would say we're also trying to understand a bit better, you know, what are, I think, you know, some of the next generation technologies, like I think quantum is one, right? We're looking a little bit into it, but
what's a good founder fit for you?
It depends on the opportunity. I think especially if we think about like resilience, I think we heard Thorsten saying yesterday, right? It's like from Helsing, it's like it's a very complex multi-domain area. So I think you really need people who are strong on the software side, on the hardware side, on the go-to-market side, right? And I think we're seeing a lot of people that are more stronger on the technical side, but they really lack, I think, the go-to-market side, particularly, you know, if you want to sell to the government, DoD, and so on, which I think is really quite tricky. So I think in the end, we're very focused on people who have some experience in these domains. Obviously, right, there's always, I think, people who also like start up from zero, but I think it's very rare, to be honest. And I think one thing we're really actually excited about is that more and more people from the US coming back to Europe. So Europeans, you know, who have been to the US for like a few years, and maybe they've worked, you know, at SpaceX or Tesla or others, and coming back to build companies. That's something we're actually looking also to. Where can we pull people back, right? Because I think the mission right now is really strong for some of these companies. I think Helsing, for example, is doing a fantastic job with that, but also Proxima Fusion is one. And I think there's a few other good examples.
I always close my interviews, especially with investors. How do people pitch you? What's the best way?
I think we want to understand why you're doing this, and I think we can spend like a whole dinner on why you're doing something, right? Like from, you know, your childhood, how you grew up, you know, like what motivates you, what are some, you know, things in your life that basically have happened, that actually led to, you know, what you're doing now. So I think trying to better understand the people. I think, you know, we can talk about technology as well. But I think given that sometimes we invest in just like the people, and I think they are the ones who will scale the company, we're just trying to understand the humans as well as good as possible.
Are you paying for the dinner?
Of course.
Well,
I would never let a founder pay for the dinner if I'm doing a dinner. Like never. That's not going to happen. Not even a coffee. Like we're a fund, and I think they are the ones who are out there who are building these companies. So I think what we can, like we should support them.
well, Robin, Julian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Much.